So good morning everyone and welcome to this Point Beyond webinar, Making Your Forms Mobile. Quick, easy and powerful mobile enabled forms with Nintex. I will say just before we start that we are recording this session and the recording will be made available afterwards. Also, you'll notice from the go to a webinar screen you're able to post questions, so please do feel free to post questions to us and we shall pick them up with a short question and answer session at the end. I'll also mention at this point that Point Beyond has teamed up with Nintex to arrange a special promotion on Nintex forms, and I'll be telling you more about that at the end. So let's get cracking on then, and we'll start with some introductions. So my name is Ian Woodgate. I'm the Managing Director here at Point Beyond Limited, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by one of my colleagues, Dan Fowle.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Dan Fowle. I'm a consultant at Point Beyond. I've been doing a lot of testing and been doing a lot of work with Nintex Forms recently, and particularly Nintex Mobile. So we're going to take you through a quick demo today.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Dan. So the agenda today is really as follows. I'm going to do a short scene setter talking about the need for business solutions and in particular the benefits of mobile enabled solutions. And then the bulk of the session is actually going to be going through a demo that Dan's been working on, and I think it's pretty cool. I think there's some pretty cool stuff there. So we're spending quite a lot of time hands-on actually playing with software, looking at the demo. Then talk briefly about how we did it, and then a quick summary and closing with questions. So we aim to be talking for about 45 minutes with questions at the end. So let's just set the scene by talking about the need for solutions. So a lot of the work that I do, I'm going to talk to various organisations and also some research that we actually commissioned a couple of years back, has really identified that most organisations have a quite considerable backlog of undelivered solutions, so things that they need to have or that their business needs that would make their lives easier, make their business more productive. But that those organisations either don't have the resources or the budget or the capability to actually deliver those solutions as quickly as they would like. And as a consequence, many organisations, we see a lot of manual, email, paper-based processes, people scanning pieces of paper, printing them out, signing them, scanning them back in, manual processes, workarounds, people sending things in the post, so forth and so on. And that all has an impact ultimately, of course, on the productivity and profitability of a business. It can also impact, of course, things like customer satisfaction, and may also even have compliance impact as well. What kind of applications am I talking about? Well, I've noticed some examples at the bottom of the screen here. It could be things like recording customer inquiries, health and safety hazards, timesheets and expenses, facilities management, so forth and so on. Typical things where people don't always have structured processes in place. So that's all well and good, and we know that organisations need these solutions. But in fact, why take that a step further, and why actually look to kind of mobile enable our solutions? And the reason really is that if you mobile enable your solutions, it gives you all the usual benefits that I've just mentioned, such as improving productivity and control, integration reporting, less use of paper, etc., etc. But also it adds additional benefits that people can be out in the field with lightweight equipment, people can be working on the go, even in remote locations, and they can still interact with your organisation and complete their business processes. So some of the things we've noted here on this slide deck, I'll just highlight a few. So speed of execution, processes, if people can access processes on the go and access forms on the go, then your processes will run faster. So you may be able to process orders more quickly, or deal with complaints or whatever more quickly, or get work done more quickly, and that's obviously of great benefit. There's time savings as well. If you've got mobile people out in the field, perhaps a mobile sales team or people surveying out in the field, what historically has happened, of course, is those people who had clipboards, they've filled in sheets of paper, they come back to the office and all that information has to be rekeyed. So you get a double hit. You've got the the time involved in people travelling back to base, and then you've got the time involved in hassle of rekeying all that information. Another thing that we're seeing more of these days is really kind of around the more what people actually expect. So customers and employees, they're used to working with iPads and mobile devices these days, and they have that in their private lives, and they kind of expect to have that when they're dealing with their work life as well. And lastly, there's some additional benefits that actually the use of a mobile device brings. And Dan, I think, will be looking at some of these in the mobile in the demo in a minute. So we've got the ability to use features in the mobile, like the camera, and also the ability for these devices to know where they are and to store geolocation information within the data that's submitted on the device. And I'm right, Dan, we'll be looking at both of those in the demo, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Excellent. So we know that we want these solutions. We know that mobile enabling our solutions is going to bring a lot of benefit. So the next question really is, how do you go about actually delivering your mobile enabled solutions? And the default option that I see so many times is custom code, and that is inherently problematic. It's very slow, it's very risky, it's very expensive. And really, SharePoint and Nintex together give us the ability to deliver our mobile solutions very quickly without having to write any code at all. And am I right, Dan, that there was no coding at all in the demo we're going to see today?
No, it's all using the out-of-the-box functionality of SharePoint and Nintex Forms.
Excellent. So thanks, Dan. So if we're building a solution, we're not writing in custom code. We're using configuration of tools like SharePoint and Nintex. It brings a lot of benefits. Firstly, the development is far quicker. It's far lower cost. It's far lower risk to do. But also in terms of maintainability, if we subsequently our business processes change or we need to add new fields or whatever, it's very easy to do that. It's work that can be done. It can be done in hours, not in weeks or months. So we can deliver our solutions very quickly, and we can maintain them going forwards. Another benefit of using Nintex to do our forms is that the architecture of Nintex forms and the way that the forms are published out to mobile devices is very clever, and we'll talk about it in a minute, in that it's very secure. It doesn't require you to punch holes in your external firewall and open up your internal infrastructures to the internet. So it ticks the box of security, and also the forms render very nicely in mobile devices. So they work the way that that people would expect a mobile form to work. They're kind of consistent with the user interface and the design of the iPad or the Android or whatever device our user happens to be using. And again, we'll see a little bit about that in the demo, which really brings us nicely on to the demo itself. I did say most of the session will be on the demo, so here we go. Now, the demo that we've prepared, I'm just going to explain what it is. So it's based on a kind of facilities management type demo and maintenance surveying. So the scenario that we've got is we've got a mobile team of people or some surveyors who are travelling around, and they're surveying faults and work that needs to be done. So it could be, say, somebody working for a local authority going out reporting broken street lights or illegally parked cars or whatever, but it could also be somebody who works in a manufacturing organisation, perhaps is working in a large factory going around reporting hazards or faults or things that need to be fixed. So that's the scenario that we're going to base the demo on today. But do bear in mind that's just the scenario we've used, and you can imagine a very kind of similar scenario where you've got people travelling around with mobile devices, collecting information in a wide range of different business contexts. So, for example, it could be travelling sales teams or even people doing surveys in the street, that kind of thing. So just bear in mind that today facilities management is the scenario that we've chosen. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Dan now. So if we can just change the presenter over to Dan, and Dan can take the demo away.
Okay, so I'm just going to show you through this this maintenance reporting scenario that we've put together. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Looks good, Dan.
Okay, great. So as Ian said, this is all using the out-of-the-box functionality of SharePoint, Nintex Forms, Nintex Workflow, and the Nintex mobile app. Some other useful scenarios we could use this for, you could imagine doing, as Ian says, things like expense claims. You can imagine, say, insurance claims assessors out and about recording their assessments. But what we've done here is we've put together a simple maintenance reporting system so that council workers, when they're out and about, can use their own personal mobile devices and log any issues as they see them. So those of you familiar with SharePoint will know this is SharePoint 2013, and for the purpose of this demo we've simply created a SharePoint list, which is the maintenance reports. So this is a standard out-of-the-box SharePoint list. We've added various different columns which represent the different bits of information we want to capture, and then what we've done is we've used Nintex Forms to sit on top of this to design a form that can be used in the browser and on various different mobile devices. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly show you how we modify the form using Nintex Forms. Along the top here, if we go to the list menu, wait for that to load. Okay, great. You can see you've got the standard SharePoint controls, but we also have one up here for Nintex Forms. Now I'm going to click this. This form has already been created using Nintex Forms, but the first time you do this, what Nintex will do is it will gather all the information in the list and automatically generate a form for you. So when I go and click on this, it will go into the graphical user designer. You don't need any additional software on your machine to do this. It's all in the browser, and you'll see that Nintex has created quite a nice looking form straight out of the box. That didn't take any modification from me. You can see I've left a gap here on purpose because I'm just going to drop in another field to show you how easy this is to do. Okay, so if I want to add a new field, we've got all our controls down the left hand side. These are all the standard Nintex controls, and you've also got all the columns from our list. What I want to do for this form is I want to add a due date, so I want to put a bit of a deadline on this work so people can't, it doesn't go on and on. Now, we don't have a due date column yet, so I need to create one. Now, with some other products, you might need to go out of the form and create the column in the list and then come back and upload it. What Nintex lets you do is actually create the column from within the interface. So along the top here, you can see there's an option to create a column. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to click on that, and this will create a column in our list. So we're just going to call this due date. And we're going to choose date and time. We're going to leave everything else as default, and we're going to click OK. And you can see on the left hand side here we've now got a due date control. So to add this to the form, it's a simple case of clicking and dragging and dropping it onto the form. And then I can just extend this control to match all the others. Okay, there we go. So we've got a date control in there. You can see the formatting isn't quite the same as the other controls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to use the Format Painter, same tool you've got in your normal Microsoft Office applications. I can click on this, and there you go. You can see that's sorted out the formatting for us. Okay, so we're missing a tag on the left-hand side. That's in the general control. So I'm just going to grab the label, drop that on here. Double click to edit it. And we're going to type in due date.
That Format Painter is a real time saver, isn't it, Dan? Because
it's absolutely brilliant.
you can spend so long otherwise trying to get your forms to look consistent.
Exactly, and if you want to really go down the design path, you can start creating your own CSS designs. And I think the Format Painter also moves those across as well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really handy. So, okay, we've made our changes there, so I'm just going to publish that out to Nintex. Okay, it's just telling us which mobile layouts we've got here. Click publish.
So worth mentioning at this point, when you say publish, Dan, you're saving the form locally on your SharePoint server, but we're also publishing it to a service called Nintex Live, which I should talk about more later, or you can if you like.
Yep. I'm just going to show you the change we made. So if we go in here, you can see we've now got a due date column.
Perfect.
What I'm also going to show you now so that's just modified the form for the browser. If we click on Customize Forms again, you may have noticed this already, but along the top you'll see that we've got a load of different layouts already pre-developed. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to be using my own personal iPhone, and the great thing about Nintex is it's got pre-designed layouts for all of these different mobile devices. So the Nintex mobile portion of this is supported on iOS and Windows mobile devices, or say your Windows Surface, and you simply click on it, and again it will go off and automatically generate the form for you, and then you can sort of move stuff around if you want to personalize it a bit, which is really powerful. Okay, so I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to quickly flip over to my phone. So you can see this is on my iPhone, and this is my dev environment. So you can see there's some other forms on here, but the one we're interested in is maintenance reports.
So just to explain, Dan, you're using a piece of software called Air Server here that just shows us the screen on your iPad, on your iPhone, right?
Yeah, that's true. And another thing that's worth pointing out is that this is my own personal iPhone. The great thing about using Nintex Mobile is that these don't have to be corporate devices connected to your network. The way Nintex Mobile works is that it will allow you to securely have these forms working on any device. They don't need to be connected to your network, and your SharePoint environment doesn't have to be set up in a complicated way. Once you've set it, you don't have to punch holes through your network security. You just have to install Nintex Mobile, and Nintex handles all the authentication. And I've actually authenticated to this using my Windows Live account, which is great. So I've tied that to my internal SharePoint account, and it means I can just use my own personal Windows Live account to access this and provide the authentication, which I think is really good, don't you?
It's very powerful, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of options around the authentication, but I think the ability just to use an existing account is great. I mean, obviously, it would depend on your exact scenario which route you go down, but yeah, I think it's very flexible and very powerful.
The other great thing about this app is that you only really have to design the solution once, and you can have it working on Windows devices, iOS, and apparently Android is in the pipeline sometime soon. So rather than hiring a team of developers to do different apps for all these different phones, it's done in one go, which I think is really beneficial. And we put this together very quickly. This took us, say, half a day to put together. If you had to do this with custom code, how long that would take, you'd be running into months. It would take a long time. So I'm just going to do a quick test. I'm just going to say abandon car. This is where we can use the GPS device on my phone. So I can just click on this, and it will find my current location, which I think is really neat.
I think I've seen it so many times. I still think it's cool with the GPS stuff.
Yeah, no, it's really good. So we can then click on this, and we've got some different categories set up. So we've got one for abandoned vehicles.
And that's nice, that UI. That's going back to what I was saying about earlier, how the form works the way you would expect a form on that device to work. So like with the arrow off to the right, and it's very similar to how other iOS apps work.
So I'm just going to put some details on this call. And this is another good thing we can do. If I click select attachments, I can add from my media library on my device, or I can click on the camera, and there we go. There's the abandoned vehicle. We'll use this, and this is uploading it into the form, which I think is really neat.
That's so useful. You can just think of so many scenarios where just to be able to take a quick photo and attach it to forms. Amazing.
It's really helpful, and you can add multiple photos on that, obviously. So there you go. We've got our form. We've got everything categorized. Got all the information we need. So I'm just going to click submit. What I could also do at this point is I could click save, and the Nintex mobile app will actually save that draft of this on my device locally. And another great thing that's worth mentioning is that the way this works is you actually have an offline copy of your form. So if you don't have reception at any given time, the Nintex app will let you fill out a form with absolutely no reception, save it as a draft, and then when you get back into the office or back into an area where there's a good 3G, you can open the form again and submit then. So so I think with a mobile device, I think that's we should all have 3G reception, but as we know, it's not always the case.
I think you can even submit it and it will just stay in your outbox, won't it, Dan? And will, as soon as you get a connection, it will just automatically send itself through.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. So I'm going to submit this. So it's gone to my outbox, and then I'm going to go back to the list. And you can see I've already submitted a load of these. You can see we've got a load in here already. Because we've got the GPS location from the device, we can use some really good functionality in SharePoint 2013, which is their new geolocation fields. So if I click on any of these items, you can see we've actually got, using Bing Maps, an exact location of where this was taken. And you can zoom in and zoom out, so you can, we can go straight into zoomed-in view, which I think is great. It's a really good way of bringing together, the latest technology, and I think it really adds value to the solution. And we've also created a map view. So what we've got here is a map showing where all of our different entries have been logged.
We've had some fun running around the country taking photos at various places in the last
I got some very, very weird looks walking around my local town taking pictures. So I'm just going to open up one of these forms. You can see we've got the geolocation on here. We've also got, let me open this. There we go. There's an image taken from my phone of a damaged sign that needs replacing.
We had to get down the fluorescent jacket for this.
We've got some other ones in here, and you can see there's a whole cluster in here, so we can zoom right in. Sorry, this may take a while to update on the screen, so I'll just wait for that to update. And you can see as I go between, it will show me where they are on the map.
We were amazed how accurate it was as well.
Yeah, it was very accurate. So you can have a look at that, where that sign was I just showed you. It's just down here by the level crossing, so I think they need to sort that out pronto. I did that one a few weeks ago, and it's still there, unfortunately. Okay, so let me go back to the main list. Okay, so we've got a few unassigned tasks in here. What I can do is I can go in and edit the item, where you can put in a due date. We can say we want this done by the end of the week, and I can log this to myself. So I'll just type in Dan, click save, and then we've got a workflow running in the background that will assign this as a task. And the great thing about this mobile app is that you can actually view tasks that have been assigned to you as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch back to my phone, and you can see I've got a task list here on the left hand side. There's a task I submitted to myself earlier. If I just fire this up, here we go. So you can see I've been assigned a task to do with a loose paving stone. I can have a look at the location on the map on my phone, which shows me exactly where it is. We've got all the different details, got some notes on it. And another thing I've done, and I'll show you how I did this in a minute, but using the Nintex Live Catalog and the Nintex workflow, I've taken the GPS location from the device when the form was submitted, and we've done a lookup against our engineers list back here in the background. So we can see that my local office, which is actually my local council office, has got a postcode associated to it. The workflow in the background has done a lookup for the engineer that the job's been assigned to, looked up their office address and planned a route from the office to where the loose paving stone is. So we can see the directions here on the task form. So we can see it's 0.8 miles, should take 4 minutes by car, and then we've got some step-by-step instructions here. So I think that's also quite useful if you're assigning these things to engineers and they haven't necessarily got a good reception or a GPS device in their car.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really cool.
So at this stage, I can either sort of approve or reject the task, and add my comments as an engineer would, and then we can submit that, and we're done. So I'm just gonna close out of this and show you how I did that. So if I come back to the list, we go back to the list menu again. We're going to have a look at the workflow this time. So we designed a workflow in the background that deals with the task assignment and finds the directions. So I'm just going to click on Workflow Settings and go to Manage Workflows in Nintex Workflow. And we can see we've got our work assignment workflow sitting here. Let's click on that. Okay, so we wait for workflow assignment, then we set the status to assigned. And if you're not familiar with Nintex workflow, you can see it's similar in layout to the forms piece, and it's very simple to use. It's a very good graphical interface, I'd say, compared to the out-of-the-box SharePoint functionality. This, it's a lot easier to throw together a workflow with this, and it's a lot easier to visualize exactly what you've done as well. In SharePoint Designer, it can often look like a massive, complicated list. So what we've done here is we've to get directions, we've extracted the longitude and latitude from the form, and then we've used this new Nintex Live functionality. So if I click on Nintex Live, you can see I've got Bing Get Directions here, and what we did is we got this from the Nintex Live Catalog. Imagine this is a kind of app store for your Nintex workflows. So if I click on this, we can see there's a whole list of actions that I can click on and download to my local environment. The one I used is the Bing Get Directions. So you can see I've already added that, and as soon as you've added that, it drops into this list here on the left-hand side. Let's double click on that and see what we did there. So you can see we just created a variable for the engineer's location. So we did a quick lookup on the engineer and his address, put that into the origin. For the destination, we've got a variable which is the GPS location of the device. We say we want it in miles. We're driving, and what this does is it lets you output the distance, duration, and directions to variables, and then I can use those in the task assignment. And actually, one thing I didn't show you was that it will also create a map image, and you can upload that to your device. Let me just flip back. So if I go into here, you can see as well as the image from the form, it's actually uploaded a map, which I think is really neat. So we can see, so you've got map here if you haven't got great reception. You've got step-by-step
What I love about
directions.
this is it's so comprehensive, and you just did it all like in a day without having to write any custom code.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think of the potential of this live catalog as well as they keep adding things. I know they've got some Bing translation tools in there, some various other bits. I think it's quite interesting what can be done. So that's how we got the directions. And then you know, that's I mean, that's pretty much the system. I mean, it was very simple to put together. As you can see, you know, there's not a great deal to it. If you're familiar with SharePoint, and you've done some sort of basic design work before, I think you generally don't need much training to get up and running with these Nintex products. The graphical user interface is it's really easy to follow. Don't you think, Ian?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and it's very easy to do. It's all browser-based as well, which makes it quite easy. Of course, you've got you can control who's got the ability to edit the form, so we can there's security that you can apply very easily. But yeah, no, I think it's a great solution. I think it's a great example because you're demoing a lot of great stuff there, publishing forms out to mobile devices, filling them out on mobiles, using geolocation, using camera, using Nintex workflow, calling web services to generate the maps and directions. I think it's great. It's really nice.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's really that's kind of the demo done. So I don't know if you've got anything else you want to cover on that, Ian, or.
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive and very nice demo. So thank you very much, Dan. Shall I take over and I'll explain briefly, kind of a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes and how we did it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so I'm going to talk for a few minutes now just about how this actually works and what's really going on here, because it's quite subtle and quite clever. So just one slide to explain it really, and that's this one. So starting off bottom left, what we've actually got is we've got an on-premise copy of SharePoint, and it happens to be SharePoint 2013 with Nintex forms installed on that. Now, when Dan was designing the forms, he was just showing you the Nintex normal kind of Nintex forms designer, and he was generating forms, and he was generating forms using Nintex forms, and those forms can be rendered in a variety of ways. You could just come in and see that form using a normal browser, and for some of our customers, that's exactly what they want to do. They want to have a form with some special functionality in it, but they just want to use browsers, normal Internet Explorer, or whatever. And they just use Nintex forms as a forms designer, and that's fine. However, what Nintex forms also allows you to do is it actually allows you to publish your form to a service provided by Nintex called Nintex Live. And Nintex Live is a cloud-hosted service, and you can think of it as a kind of forms gateway, I guess. What it will do is it will allow your forms to be published out to apps that run on mobile devices. So Nintex have an app for iOS, they have an app for Windows Mobile, and they will soon have an app for Android. And those apps are capable of receiving our forms from the Nintex Live service. They're capable of, as Dan already said, keeping an offline copy of the forms, both the form itself and data that's been submitted into forms, and then they submit the data back to Nintex Live, and Nintex Live then forwards it on back to our on-premise SharePoint environment. So that's what's going on behind the scenes. And that's a really nice model for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it means that that we don't actually have to open our firewall up to allow direct access from devices connected to the internet, so people's mobile phones connected into our on-premise SharePoint. Okay, Nintex Live acts as that gateway, and as long as our SharePoint server's got an outbound internet connection, then the service works absolutely fine. The other advantage of this, and Dan's touched on it already, is it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of the way we authenticate our users. So, for example, Dan was authenticating using Nintex Live. Dan was authenticating using his Microsoft account, but we could also, if we wanted to, authenticate using our internally controlled domain accounts. So, nice simple model, a lot of flexibility, and do bear in mind, as I say, although we've shown the forms being filled out on a mobile device using the mobile app, it would be perfectly possible for somebody to come in and fill those forms in using a browser, should we so choose to do that. Okay. I think we're doing good on time actually, and I'm really just going to start to wrap up now. We're going to have plenty of time for questions. So hopefully what we've shown you today is we've shown how Nintex Forms we can really quickly and easily build very powerful solutions, very powerful applications that are integrated seamlessly with workflows. We've shown how we can take those forms and we can publish them out so that people with mobile devices on the internet can access those forms, fill them out even when they're offline, interact with them using the functionality that's built into their mobile devices like GPS and camera, and submit those forms back in real time back to our on-premise SharePoint server. And I think the key takeaway from all of this is it's really shown how we can deliver these solutions in hours, not weeks or months. You know, Dan put this whole solution together from start to finish, and you think about what he's achieved in that time space. I think that's a phenomenal achievement in terms of how productive these tool sets enable you to be. I mean, Dan, if we'd asked somebody to go and custom code all of that, how long would that have taken, do you think?
Well, months to.
I mean, it's months of work, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's actually a really enjoyable tool to work with because you know, as you work through it, you see all these other bits of functionality that you can use, and you know, you can really start building up sort of quite complex solutions without too much work. You just have to, it's very simple. You just you can literally just throw it together, and you've got yourself quite a complicated.
And I think
solution.
a great example of that was the direction finding stuff that you found in the Nintex.
Yeah, I mean that's great, and there's some other useful bits in there. I saw there's some tools that you can use to interact with with Office 365, posting things on Twitter or blog posts, that kind of thing. So there's lots of good tools in there. I think they'll be adding to it as well.
Oh, for sure. Okay, great. So just to finish then, before we move on to questions, I did say that that there's a special promotion running that I was going to tell you about, and yeah, we're very pleased to be saying that there is a special offer on at the moment, which is a 20% discount off Nintex forms, which is running until now until the end. We're running until the end of March. So if that's of interest to anyone, please do come and contact us. Similarly, if you'd like to have a 30-day free trial of the Nintex Forms functionality or of the workflow functionality that we've seen today, please do give us a shout, and we'd be delighted to help set that up for you. My contact details are on the screen below, so if any more questions or anyone would like any more information after the session, please do feel free to get in touch. We have several questions that have been answered actually, Dan, so if you're up with that, let's take those on and go through them.
Okay,
We've got a lot of questions. Okay. So the first question is, what other options are there for authentications? Many corporate networks won't allow Windows Live through the firewall. Right, okay. So the Windows Live authentication doesn't need to go through your firewall. That's the nice aspect to this. You authenticate with Windows. Yeah, do you want to explain that in a bit more detail, Dan?
Yeah, what I did there is you can, within SharePoint, there's the option to actually tie your SharePoint account to your Windows Live account, and then I think Nintex Live, its service in the cloud, deals with the authentication and will transfer information between the two.
Yeah.
But I think, as you mentioned before as well, you don't necessarily have to go down that avenue. You can use your normal SharePoint terminal accounts, your normal AD, authentication. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess two fundamental options there here with mobile and Nintex Live. Your first option is to just say, well, actually, I'm just going to authenticate my users to my forms directly using my Windows accounts, my AD accounts. My user will have to type in their AD account into their mobile device. The second option is to say, well, I'll use Windows Live. I'll use Nintex Live, and I will authenticate my users. Against my Windows Live account, and Nintex Live will map that Windows Live account through to the AD account when it publishes the data back to SharePoint.
Yeah, and you have control of that via the resource in Central Admin, so you can manage the users that are tied to your AD accounts, so
Yeah.
you've got control.
It is a bit confusing. We did actually write a blog post actually, so if you want to check out blog.pointbeyond.com, there is a blog post that's got a little table at the bottom that shows you all the options for authentication and connectivity of mobile devices that I probably worth taking a look at.
Yeah.
Next question, Dan.
Okay.
Are there any prefabricated templates for designing forms to be viewable on BlackBerry devices? Or do you just select any template and the form works on all mobile devices regardless of the brand?
Well, there's some pre-designed templates for your sort of most common devices. So you've got templates for your Windows Mobile, Surface tablet. You've got some for iPhone, iPad, but there are some generic mobile layouts. So they just reduce the size of the screen. None specifically for BlackBerry. But the out of the box mobile device view would be a good starting point for that, I think.
Sure, because there's not a BlackBerry app, so you would just be doing it using the browser on your BlackBerry. So you could just use one of the generic templates, mobile templates, to create a size that was suitable to working on a BlackBerry. And because it's HTML5 compliant, it would just render on the BlackBerry.
Yeah, that's true.
Next question, how would this work with MOS 2007? I've got a feeling that's a short answer.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it does, unfortunately.
It doesn't, unfortunately. No, you need to be on 10 or 13 to use Nintex Forms capability. Another question. Thanks for this great demo. You're very welcome. Can you provide some details on how products are priced? Probably best to get in touch with us regarding that, actually, if that's okay, because it does depend on exactly what your infrastructure is and what your hardware requirements are. So give us a shout and we'll be happy to talk that through with you. Next question. I work in a secure environment. Can I limit form submissions to specific device IDs, like MAC addresses or user IDs?
You have control in Central Admin over which users are enabled for the mobile device, so you can control that. I don't think once you've enabled a user, I don't think there's any specific control over which of their devices they can connect with.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dan. Does it work on Google apps and sites? We do not have SharePoint. Again, I think that's a short answer. I'm afraid no, it doesn't. Nintex Forms is very much built to sit on top of SharePoint. Okay, next question. How much is it and how is it licensed? Is it a one-off license fee or is it based on a number of devices? I see that Nintex is free on the App Store. What other costs should we factor into the business case? Okay, so I'll summarize that. It's licensed on a per web front-end basis, and it's a one-off fee plus optional, but I would highly recommend maintenance agreement. So it's nothing to do with the number of users or the number of mobile devices. The app that you see on the Nintex on the App Store is free. That's the app that allows you to have the forms. So it basically has forms published to that app. So you don't need to cost. The only cost that you need to incur is the cost of licensing the Nintex Forms server application on your servers, which is a per web front end cost. It's no impact on number of devices or users. If you want to talk specific figures, then do give me a shout, because to some extent that depends on exactly what infrastructure you've got. But I'm happy to talk that through with you, Kevin.
Yeah, I think it's quite a cheap way of designing, mobile workflow and apps without having to, use expensive third-party tools or developers. I think it's a quick way to get things out there on people's mobile devices. And I think more and more people want to use their own devices as well. They don't necessarily want to use a corporate device.
Yeah. I think it's very, very competitively priced. Let's put it that way, Gavin. But give me a shout. I'm happy to walk you through the exact pricing model and make sure that we get it right for your particular scenario. Once a form is designed and uploaded onto the web, will others be able to share using a hive mind development mentality. So I think what we're talking about is designing forms here. Well, yes, multiple people can work on the design of a form, absolutely. But the form design work is done on the on-premise SharePoint server. The Nintex live gateway is merely a gateway. You wouldn't develop against that gateway. You develop against the form on-premise, but yeah, several people could work on the form. I doubt they could effectively work concurrently, though, Dan, would you?
No, I don't think that would be possible.
I mean, the thing is, the forms normally, it's one person's job to design a form. I mean, if you had a more complex process, you might have several forms, and you could have different people working on different forms concurrently, and that would work fine. Next question, are you able to incorporate any handwritten signature apps as well? Any thoughts on that? It was a very good question. Any thoughts on that, Dan?
We're actually looking into using digital signatures with mobile devices. So we might have a bit more information on that soon, actually, I think, won't we?
Yeah, I think that there's nothing been announced yet from Nintex or ourselves, but I would say watch this space. At present, you can't take an Nintex form and put a handwritten signature onto the form. I think at the moment, but I would say watch this space. Next question. Can you publish forms for multiple types of smartphones, i.e. engineers carry iPhones and HTC devices depending on their personal preference?
Yes, you can, absolutely. Android isn't available soon, but I know they're working on it.
Is available soon, yeah?
It is available soon. It's not available now, but I know it's on the way. And once it is, you'll have the flexibility to publish these forms. Well, the forms are automatic. If you choose the layout, the forms are automatically published out, so people can use their iPhones, Windows devices, or in the future their Android devices.
Yeah. So remember that users have always got the option to use the browsers on their phones. What we're talking about here is the app that adds the offline functionality and the really slick user interface.
Yeah, and it offers you the extra functionality around the task forms as well, which is really good.
And that's true, yeah. But any user on any type of form, any type of phone, has always got the ability to use browser-based forms. Next question. Do Nintex forms work well with line of business application data exposed through SharePoint via external lists?
Yes, you could do stuff with that, or alternatively, you can offload the interactions with your sort of line of business applications to the workflow.
Sure.
Because you can do some more complicated stuff with the actual Nintex workflow,
Okay.
and then you can surface that through the form.
Okay. Another good question here, actually, which is something we didn't raise, but can the mobile forms be branded? And if I brand my form, does the branding also apply to the mobile form?
I think at the moment Nintex recommends that you don't brand the mobile apps.
You can though, can't you?
Yeah, I think you can do a certain amount of branding. You can certainly brand the browser-based form, but I think for the time being they because the mobile devices are obviously quite slick and clean. I don't think you want to avoid sort of cluttering it, loading big images, that kind of thing. So I think their best practice recommendations are not to brand it heavily, are just to use the out of the box.
Yeah. So if you're doing browser-based forms, then by all means go ahead and brand. But recommendation is not to brand forms that are going to be accessed through the mobile apps.
Yeah. What you can do actually is in the forms list you can add icons for different categories. You can add lots of different categories. I had just details and maintenance reporting, but you can have as many as you want in there.
Sure. Okay. I think another point worth mentioning on the branding as well is that you can actually define branding templates within Nintex that will be applied to all of your forms, and then if you update those branding templates, or you can choose which forms you want to apply the branding templates to, I should say, and then if you update the template, then all of those forms will inherit those changes. That's quite a nice piece of functionality. I've got one more question actually, Dan, and then we're out of questions unless anyone wants to post any more. the last one is, can we have parent and child forms, i.e. a site visit records some header details about when, where, who, etc., and then some line details for items inspected or tested?
I think that's possible within Nintex Forms in the browser. In the mobile app, I haven't tested that yet, so that's something I'd need to test offline. But I can certainly look into that and get back to the person.
Good question, Matt. We'll come back to you on that. Okay. If anyone has any more questions, please post now. Yeah, one more question has just come through. Repeating sections are now supported in the mobile app. So that's from Dan at Nintex has just confirmed that for us.
Brilliant.
So thank you very much for that, Daniel. So I think that's a fairly recent introduction as well. Great. On that note then, we've no more questions. Want to say to everyone thank you very much for attending today. Hope you've enjoyed the webinar, and contact details are on the screen. Please do get in touch.